Guys, good morning. Happy Sunday. I guess the Commanders are the best team ever because they're just unstoppable. My goodness gracious, that offense, they you can't stop them. Jaden Daniels, he was perfect last night. He was perfect the week before. Holy moly, the Lions had no answer for him whatsoever. Once Washington can run the ball a little bit, and Brian Robinson deserves a lot of credit. The offensive line deserves a lot of credit. They lost their starting guard when they got the touchdown early in the game, and it didn't matter. He had plenty of time to throw. So yeah, Daniels gets all the headlines, but they were able to run the ball. They were able to control the line of scrimmage offensively, which is just unbelievable when you look at it. Because the Lions were home. The Lions were able to stop them on fourth down on the short yardage play to start the game. So to think that Washington would then control the line of scrimmage, but they did. They did. They dominated up front. Eckler was great. McLaurin, all the props hit. So, thank the Lord on that. The standalone night game finally goes my way. So I needed that for sure. Really good night. Almost all the props really went over in the first half. Daniels was just, the Lions had no answer. If you were rooting for the Lions last night, really frustrating game, I imagine, because it's the same thing as when I was rooting for Tampa the week before. You just have no answer against Washington. You know they're going to convert these fourth and twos more times than not, and they did. They dominated, and the defense. The game really went the way I thought it was. Golf, his the pattern with Golf is when he gets behind, he gets a little tight, and he did. He forced a really bad throw. Brady, when they showed the replay, that the pick six, the first one, Laporta's wide open, and he just went for the second receiver in the progression. It wasn't there, and it was a gift, really. And then the other turnover, yeah, you got to have the pocket awareness. He didn't have it, and Washington wins. I don't know how they're going to lose next week. They're either going to LA or going to Philly. I don't know. Kind of feels like that Kaepernick run when they beat the Packers. That was the same year the Ravens won the Super Bowl. And I just remember Kaepernick just like running through them, and it's like this is unstoppable. Ravens found a way to slow it down in the Super Bowl, but the way Daniels is cooking right now, yeah, Kaepernick did that to the Packers in the divisional round, and they won the NFC Championship against the Falcons that year. Um, I don't know if this game's in LA, and you give them another clean dome and a lot of Washington fans. Ooh, I don't. Yeah, and plus the Rams are going to feel like I don't know, they might run out of gas. And then if you send them to Philly, they almost beat Philly on Thursday night going for that fourth down stuff, and they didn't get it. And I remember I had Washington that game. I'm like, man, you got to kick the field goal there. And that's just been his style the whole year. Dan Quinn. They go back to Philly. They beat them at the end of the year in Washington. They could easily win that game. Um, Easily. Like Washington's just absolutely rolling right now. What a wild game yesterday. Detroit just ran out of gas. Too many injuries. I would say on defense. Just plus Washington was just on fire. So if they redid the game tomorrow, I don't know if we're getting many different results because the things went the right way for the Lions early. Like the Lions got the stop. They were up 7-3. Then they were up. Yeah, they were up 7-3, and then they were able to kind of get it. They were able to score and keep the game competitive. They just couldn't stop Washington. So game theory it out, and Washington probably wins that game more times than not. That's just the way. Wow, what a game yesterday. All right, the first game was yeah. If you hate the Chiefs, now you have another reason to hate them. Besides Kelsey's ridiculous dancing, and Mahomes just flopping his way out of bounds. At least Aikman called him out for it on broadcast. But yeah, like this is a new thing. Just trying to get 15-yard penalties after you already lucked up on one. I mean, I don't want to pile on because I'm sure we can save it for next week when the Ravens head to Kansas City. But just I don't know what the rationale here is to review absolutely everything. Like they review, it feels like they review everything, but we can't review whether or not the guy actually made helmet to helmet contact or a face mask. It cost Montgomery last night. The Commanders got called for a face mask. It wasn't a face mask whatsoever. Could have reviewed that. That changed the drive. And then, yeah, on the opening drive, Mahomes, or not the opening drive, but one of those drives, gets, yeah, whatchamacallit, they call personal foul on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, and it just wasn't. It really wasn't. And then he did the duck, like the fake slide bullshit where guys running full speed, it's hard enough to even stop, but Mahomes is like kind of, super athletic, so he's able to wait till the last second to then slide. Then you get the penalty for diving. It's just stupid. And then he tried to get another one on the sideline, and it's like, what are we doing here? They found a way to cover for me. I know different people got different spreads and went up to 9. Some people even saw 9.5 by the time they kicked off. It was 8.5 for me. So the 2 points at the end, it didn't affect me, but that's a story in itself. But yeah, just as far as the game is concerned, not really impressed with Kansas City. Like Kelsey was just wide open the whole time. I don't understand what when you saw some of the replays, like very rarely was he making a great move. There was just a couple times he was just wide open. So I'm not sure exactly what the game plan was for the Texans, but they couldn't run the ball. And Pacheco somehow found his way out of lineup, and Kareem Hunt's getting all the carries. So there goes that prop for me. But they couldn't really get a push. Thuney, who they moved to left tackle, really struggled. So a lot of I came away from the game thinking the Chiefs are going to have some trouble next week scoring offensively against whoever they have to play. Not really impressed with their offensive line at all. But yeah, their defense was good enough on the other side of the ball. The Texans, they got Mixon going a little bit. I think missing that extra point just killed them. They were right. It was 13. Would have been 13 all, and they just like took the air out of things, made 13-12. They had another missed field goal earlier, missed field goal at the end of the game. Just yeah, a lot of things kind of bounced the wrong way for the Texans. And the thing that the Texans don't have, you saw Stroud, scramble for at least one big play. But what the Texans don't have that the Ravens and the Bills both have is a more dominating offensive line. So I couldn't come away. I thought the Chiefs, yeah, they played really well in the secondary, and they're going to do these all-out blitzes. Whether or not they're going to work next week, I don't know. So we got plenty of time for that. All right, Rams. I guess it's going to snow. I don't know who this favors necessarily in this Rams-Eagles game, but to me it's a 50-50 game no matter what the weather is, the way the Eagles are playing on offense and the way the Rams are playing on defense. So it's strength on strength on the other side of the ball. The Eagles' best secondary, great against the pass, and the Rams are just lethal. Cooper Kupp, he's really been a decoy. They haven't used him. I have a feeling McVay's been saying it. I think they're going to use him today. I think he's going to get some targets. Puka, with respect to all these receivers, he's probably the guy I want the most because he is just an absolute beast. Feels like the perfect game from him. What's he from BYU? And Cooper's from Eastern Washington. So, yeah, they're LA guys, but it's freezing where they're from. Kyron Williams with the Notre Dame. Stafford in the cold, we'll find out. We'll find out how he does in the snow. He's been around for a while, right? Played in Chicago, played in Green Bay. So I don't have his numbers in front of me, but he is throwing the ball so well right now. I mean, these elite quarterbacks throw the ball. It just blows my mind. How accurate these throws are. With Daniels last night, he's just on fire. Stafford makes those throws too. He did against the Vikings. He's going to do it again today. They don't need big windows. And the Rams got humiliated by Philadelphia last time. Sunday Night Football just got absolutely humiliated, ran down their throat. The snow should slow them up a little bit. Might make things a little awkward for Barkley. Maybe it neutralizes him. It can't help him. It helps. If he's the best, you give him the best conditions, and that's what he would prefer. Once there's like an extra variable in there, maybe slips, maybe it's something. And if the Eagles get 3rd and 6, I don't know what they're going to do. Probably just run the ball because they can't throw the ball. And the Rams defense is playing with a ton of confidence. I'm all over the Rams today. I'm trying to talk myself into them winning the game. I love the 6.5. Just way too many points. Props burned me last time with the Rams. I probably a take over in Kyron Williams' props. We'll have that out in a minute whenever this pod comes out. But I do like the Rams to be able to run the ball against the Eagles because N'Kobe Dean, the middle linebacker for the Eagles, is out, and the Eagles they're strong in the secondary. But there was a couple of times where Jacobs was. It felt like Jacobs last week, the running back for the Packers, was trying to get the Packers in the game, and Jordan Love was just like betting against them. Like I'm just not going to make one play for you because Jacobs was able to run a little bit, and that was with the Packers losing their best offensive lineman. Watch out for the Rams today. Could be a Washington at LA. God, I really like hate myself for not wanting to bet that yesterday because I like the Commanders. I almost did the Lions / Chiefs win the Super Bowl so I could hedge having the Ravens head to the Super Bowl because I just figured the Lions are getting out of there. But then I was like, man, this Commanders team might beat them. So I thought the Lions, would definitely beat the Eagles. I like the Rams that beat the Lions. So it was kind of, anyway, I had a lot of different thoughts going through my head. And as soon as Jaden Daniels started moving the ball down the field, it was like, man, it looks like Washington is just going to win this game. And I don't know who's going to be in next week. So, yeah, but it would not surprise me if the Rams got them and we're looking at Washington and LA. And Washington just gets there. I don't know. I don't know how they're losing next week. I just don't. But as far as today's concerned, Philly better get the lead. I'll tell you that. If they don't, and this is a 4-quarter game, the field goal kicker sucks. Elliott, he's just one of the worst kickers. That's the only thing now as I get to the Ravens game that makes me a drop anxious. I really don't need there to be any meaningful field goal kicks today because Tyler Bass for the Bills, I would say, is due to have a big game. Yeah, poor guy missed the field goal last year against the Chiefs. He's a little shaky, but it is his home stadium. He is pretty good. Tucker, oh boy. I don't need any like meaningful field goals here. I just don't. I prefer not to. I prefer to just finish off this season with 3 straight blowouts. Make me feel a lot better. Maybe Tucker can have. I don't know. That makes me a drop anxious. I'm going over things that make me anxious first, and then we'll get to why I think the Ravens are going to roll them. But yeah, Tucker makes me a drop anxious. I would say the Bills having a different type of approach to stopping the Ravens, led by a bunch of defensive backs that they usually have, and then saying, okay, we can't do that. Try that last time, and partially they tried that without Milano, and maybe they overcompensated by having some more defensive backs. Now it feels like they signed a couple guys, Phillips, Jefferson, just like journeyman guys. Daquan Jones is in there, Ed Oliver. The thing that I don't love in any high leverage playoff game with superstar athletes is telling the big guys up front that they're the reason why their team's going to lose. Like, and they're home. Like, to go into someone else's stadium and just pound the ball right down their throat. Really, I don't know if that's going to be able to happen. Especially early in the game, especially when the Bills are jacked up, ready to play. They're the underdog, especially on that particular matchup, right? They're front 7, front 8, front 9, front 10, all those guys that are going to rotate in. Everybody besides the defensive backs. Like, those Bills linemen and linebackers have all been told, now for 6 days in a row that they're the reason why the Ravens are going to kick their ass, right? So is that enough motivation plus the home crowd? And then this gets me to my biggest worry for tonight is the penalties. That's the number one thing. Can't even sit still thinking about it because if they get penalties tonight, things are getting broken around here because they cannot get penalties. Like, we cannot go from 2nd and 4 to 2nd and 9. It can't be 3rd and 3 and then 3rd and 8 all of a sudden with the freaking crowd going crazy and a bunch of guys with no shirts on. Can't do it. Cannot do it. Have to stay on schedule. Have to have 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1. And then we're just a better version of really what Daniels and Washington are last night. Like you're just rolling, and the defense is exhausted. They can't stop you. There's just it's just too much. So those are the main things. You cannot turn the ball over. That goes without saying, but that kind of feels redundant here. Like obviously we can't turn the ball over. I'm not really worried about it because it's hard to it's hard to like predict turnovers. Number one, it feels a little bit, I don't want to say random, but it just kind of does. Plus, I think the Ravens are going to be hyper focused to protect the ball. I, I don't think I have a good feeling about that. I have a good feeling about Lamar protecting the ball, running when the lanes are open. I'm talking about the stupid ineligible guy down the field, legal shift, bullshit penalties that they just cannot afford to have tonight. So it's penalties. It's making sure they can establish the line of scrimmage, even if they don't bust Buffalo off the line to start the game. As long as they're able to get 3, 4, 5 yards and just kind of get started, that'll build up the confidence. They can't get pushed backwards. And really, they can't be afraid to come out and do some quick throws because the reason why I think the Ravens actually roll them tonight, now that I got that out of my system, it really revolves around Likely and Andrews. Not having Flowers, just assuming he's not playing, I don't think kills him. It'd be nice to have him next week against Kansas City so you can occupy some of their guys in the secondary. But Buffalo's secondary guys, their corners require safety help regardless. Whereas the Chiefs can kind of play their corners on the island. The Bills can't afford to do that. They just can't. Douglas, Johnson, Benford, they're not going to just be able to line up and guard the Ravens receivers without having safety help over the top. Regardless of who the Ravens put out there, they're just not. That's why the Broncos were able to get over the top last week. That really helps the Ravens having that on film that the Broncos were able to burn them on one because you can't cheat on Bateman on the outside and you can't cheat on Aguilar. There's just too much speed. They can put Wallace in there and they'll stretch the field enough that what opens it up is Andrews and Likely, and it's just too much of them. I really find them to be unguardable in a situation like this for Buffalo. Buffalo can't stop Henry, Lamar, and then both tight ends at the same time. It's just too much. And I don't see it for Buffalo's defense. I see Buffalo having to score 40 points tonight in order to be able to win the game. And how does Buffalo score 40 points? I would say a fucking miracle because this Ravens defense that's what I'm more confident in even than the offense because the Ravens defense has the perfect recipe to stop Buffalo. They're built perfectly to stop Buffalo because the way you would exploit the Ravens, in my opinion, is having a more physical run game, right? And being able to own that line of scrimmage and trying to run inside the tackles, wear out Pierce, wear out Jones, be able to get to the second level and get hands on Roquan. The other way is the receiving back. So, yeah, James Cook does provide that element to it where they have to stop him from catching the ball. But that would be the main thing that I'm worried about for the Ravens defending the Buffalo. I think on the outside, the way the Bills receivers are, they just don't have dynamic speed to exploit the Ravens. Humphrey and Stevens with Hamilton and Washington, it's just too much for Buffalo. They don't have enough weapons. And I think up front, the thing about the Bills' offensive line with, it's solid all the way across, but Denver was able to push it back a little bit. And it's enough where I just think the Ravens have enough guys and they're playing downhill against Buffalo. And the Bills are going to be in a lot of passing situations. They've played Allen pretty well a couple of times that they've played him. I think they keep him in the pocket. I think Trenton Simpson has a big game. I think Roquan is lurking around. I just think that Buffalo is it's just undermanned in this game. I don't think it's super complicated. I think the intangibles point towards Buffalo, right? The weather, being at home, potential penalties, the emotion of just football and having, more, I don't want to say a calm about them, but Yeah, potentially. The Ravens can get a little bit more emotional, but it's not like McDermott over there is a genius. He gets tight in big games as well. I think Buffalo overachieved this year, or achieved pretty much what they were supposed to do, because they had a weak division. But it's just not the same football that the Ravens played. It's a different type of football. The Bills would win this game potentially indoors in a track meet where they could get some of the speed going. But Shakir and Cook, they do scare me because of how fast they are. But once it's colder and a little bit more bumping, I don't know. I just think it's a tough situation for the Bills to get rolling. So I thought the Bills had really good games against Detroit and LA on offense because it's outdoors. And James Cook would be the one difference maker tonight. If you told me that the Ravens didn't commit too many penalties and played a pretty clean game, Lamar was good, and we lost 34-27, something like that, I would think it's because James Cook was just the best player on the field. I don't think it's Allen takes over. I think it's a combination of Allen plus Cook, because that's been the one Ravens' weakness is, can the linebackers stop the receiving back. The tight ends for Buffalo are solid, but I think it has to be a James Cook game. I hope it's not a James Cook game. I am going to roll with the Ravens. I'm not sure, frankly, how much and what I'm feeling by the time we get to game time. But unless something dramatically changes here over the next few hours, and there's something comes out that makes me think otherwise, it just feels like the Ravens. It feels like it's their time. It feels like Lamar gets over the hump. I don't know if it turns into a blowout. It can turn into a blowout if they jump on them early, but this does have the makings of a wild game coming down to the end, and then it's a Tucker situation. And I hope it's I don't know if it's a where he's trending right this second. He hasn't had a meaningful kick, it seems like, in forever. So does he have just a horrible season and then remains perfect in the postseason like he normally is, and we roll? We'll find out, obviously. So enjoy the game. Sorry for just blabbing. It felt like a therapy session more than anything else. I don't know if I said anything that anybody didn't know, or we've been talking about this game forever. So here we go. I'll have it out in yeah. I'll put the Rams Eagles bets out first, and then the Ravens stuff out later. Maryland plays in an hour, so a lot of points. I don't know how I feel about it. They didn't look good against Northwestern, playing defense, lack of hunger. Wouldn't surprise me if this game's super close. Nebraska's pretty good, so enjoy if you're watching the Maryland game. Enjoy the Ravens game. See you guys in the morning, and yeah, see ya.